So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, friends, and welcome to Freelancer Friday. Today we'll be recapping our experiences from ETHDenver. We'll be reviewing what we've learned and chatting about what's on the roadmap for each of our projects today. We'll be touching on topics like self-sovereignty and freelance culture in Web3. And I'm here with some really amazing speakers with some incredible projects in the Web3 space. I'm here with Gary Shang from Gitcoin, Gloria, formerly Gitcoin, now Supermodular, and Kevin Owaki, founder of Gitcoin and Supermodular. We're also waiting on one other speaker, Griff, founder of Giveth and General Magic, who should be joining us shortly. Without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to our incredible speakers today, and we'll just give some introductions. We'll keep it between 1 and 2 minutes, and yeah, I'll pass the mic over to Gary.
Thanks, Rachel. It's fun. It's fun to be here and just catch up with some people I can't spend enough time with. I am one of the lead marketers at Gitcoin. I focus a lot on the civil defense product, Gitcoin Passport. It only becomes more and more relevant every day. And beyond that, I'm just thinking about the future of Web3 because I think the narrative is horrible, and we need really cool projects that impact real people, especially in like the most overlooked and underinvested areas.
Awesome, yeah.
Kevin.
Thanks, Gary. We'll pass it over to Gloria next.
Hi, I'm Gloria. I've been in the builder space of Web3 for 5, almost 6 years. I was formerly at Gitcoin and now I'm at Supermodular. I usually focus on hackathons or in-person events. So I'm very builder focused. I also at ETHDenver helped put on Shelling Point, as well as a whole bunch of other activations that week. I was pretty busy. And then I do help out with the BuildABox team that is putting on hackathons as well. So yeah, you probably see me around. If not, please always say hi. I love getting to know people and connecting people in the space with other great people.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gloria. And we'll pass the mic over to Kevin to give an introduction.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Owaki. I am a software engineer and community organizer out of Colorado, Colorado, and I guess I'm mostly known for being involved in Gitcoin in its early days. I'm now building a regen venture studio called Supermodular.xyz. Really excited to be here. Opolis has been a friend of Gitcoin and now Supermodular for 5 or 6 years now, and always love to support other Colorado companies.
Awesome. And thanks so much for being here today, Kevin. I know everyone is recovering from ETHDenver. Y'all were so busy at ETHDenver. And I just want to express my immense gratitude for everyone that had a part in Shelling Point. Like, I actually shared one of the tweets that's pinned here is the video recapping Shelling Point. And I wrote that I've never experienced such a concentrated mass of really good-hearted individuals who are trying to change the world for the better and create a more regenerative world. So if y'all didn't check out Shelling Point this year, definitely check it out next year. Follow the project and follow what they're doing. I really believe this group of individuals are working to change the world for the better and think in a more regenerative way. Now, also, I want to bring your attention to these pinned tweets. The most recent one is just resources to get involved with these projects, and feel free to click these links, to follow these projects and all the speakers today, because they're working on some really amazing stuff. So without further ado, let's dive into some of the questions we have prepared today. So the first thing I'll ask to our speakers is, what were the major takeaways from ETHDenver 2023? What do you feel that you got from this experience personally, and what were the major highlights for you? And we can start with Gary.
That's a good question. I think maybe, did I share my lessons on Twitter? I forget. But I think one of them is that the Green Pill region, Web3 community has grown a lot. And speaking of Shelling Point, big shout out to Owaki and Gloria, who are, two of the founders of that whole thing. I was talking to Gloria about how for the next one in Denver could be double the capacity, which is wild and so true, or multiple days, which just speaks to like I kind of always like secretly was like, or not so secretly, it was like Web3 should just be region Web3, and everything else is just like foundational infrastructure to enable these sort of regenerative coordination games. So I think like maybe like a year ago, the first Shelling point ever in ETHDenver 2022, it was not obvious to many people, but I think everyone is like, yeah, this is it's like at minimum a big part of Web3, at maximum like what I said, like the most exciting thing about Web3.
Got it. And Gary, I just shared the In-Betweeners article that you've written. I wasn't able to locate the lessons you've learned from ETHDenver, although I took a look at that when you made that. If you want to share that here, I'd love to share that with our attendees today.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. So, Gloria, what were your major takeaways from ETHDenver?
I have quite a bit of them. Um, Shelling Point was definitely a huge takeaway for me, or just a huge aha moment. Originally, we were only going to do like one Shelling Point ever, which was the first one in Denver, and I think that one had like 700 to 800 people. Um, and this last Shelling Point that we had over 1,500 people. We sold out like a month ahead of time. We could have easily had double the size. The amount of speakers that asked to speak was almost around 150 people signed up to just ask to speak, and we only had like 30 some odd slots. So I realize now that there's a lot of conversations that are happening and need to be shared, and that there's a mechanism for, or we need to create a mechanism where the stories can get out a little bit beyond just Shelling Point. And so that's something I've been like really trying to think about, is like, how do we take this and continue it so that it's not just a meeting, once every quarter or whatnot, but that these stories still get amplified and people can do the work, within their own communities as well. But one of the other takeaways that I've had is like our space is growing, which is great. But a lot of times these events are when I get to see all my friends, which is great as well. And I always think that ETHDenver specifically as an event is a great opportunity to like try things out, try things new, and it has like a really good innovative feel than most of the other conferences. And people, or we need to create a mechanism where the stories can get out a little bit beyond just Shelling Point. And so that's something I've been like really trying to think about, is like, how do we take this and continue it so that it's not just a meeting, once every quarter or whatnot, but that these stories still get amplified and people can do the work, within their own communities as well. But one of the other takeaways that I've had is like our space is growing, which is great. But a lot of times these events are when I get to see all my friends, which is great as well. And I always think that ETHDenver specifically as an event is a great opportunity to like try things out, try things new, and it has like a really good innovative feel than most of the other conferences that I've attended. And so I'm always hoping that people will continue to innovate on that aspect. But my favorite parts are always the impact dinners, like just having the small, concentrated groups getting to hang out with each other. And for some reason this year it was enabled like more of those little dinners and hangout spaces. We had some people at our little hangout house, which was great. But I would love to have more of those.
Same here. I went to the Shelling Point VIP dinner, and I don't know if she's here right now, but shout out to Simona for just being like a master organizer. Like, she really inspired me with the work that she did. And I just had an amazing time connecting with all these different regen folks there, and just admiring the work Simona did. Yeah, so I'll pass the mic over to Kevin. Kevin, what were your major takeaways from ETHDenver, and what was your experience like at Shelling Point?
Yeah, well, it was great to see all my friends, old and new, again at ETHDenver and at Shelling Point this year. I mean, to state the obvious, ETHDenver has grown a lot. The new venue is huge. It was great to have Regenlandia and have all of the Impact Owls in one space. Felt like there was a real concentration around that narrative going from Shelling Point to the Regenlandia talks at ETHDenver. So yeah, it was good vibes and great to catch up with everyone. Really excited to see Shelling Point and the regen movement growing leaps and bounds. It feels like it's an important narrative, an important story and movement to tell. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I can't wait for the next one. I think which I heard will be at ETHCC.
That's amazing. I actually, just to give you a follow-up question, Kevin, I wanted to ask how you envision this event evolving in the future, how people can get involved, and how you envision this impacting the space.
That's a great question. Shelling Point is the intellectual property of Gitcoin, which is a DAO that I was involved in starting, but I've since disaffiliated from. So, I'm trying to give them space to define the protocols and products and programs and engagements that just because of the disaffiliation, I'm really looking at the marketing work stream and the memes work stream to figure out what the next chapter of Shelling Point looks like. So I'll not opine on that, and I'll instead say that the broader regen crypto movement is growing a lot. There's a bunch of different movements: the regen movement, the refi movement, the impact DAO movement, and mostly I've just been trying to stoke those ahead with the Green Pill podcast. And there's now a movement to get a Green Pill China and a Green Pill India and like local chapters of the Green Pill uh, meetup to happen all over the world. So just trying to cultivate the coherence of a global regen movement is what I've been up to. But the future of Shelling Point is definitely up to Gitcoin DAO.
That's amazing. And I just want to take a moment, Kevin, to just commend your efforts on the Green Pilled Regenerative Crypto Economics book. When I met you at the VIP dinner, I had this book with me. I've kind of just had it with me ever since I've discovered this. I feel like I've just learned so much about regenerative crypto economics, impact DAOs, positive sum games for individuals. And it really is, in my opinion, just a work of art. And I love the book so much.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see future iterations of this.
Thank you so much for saying that. It really means a lot to me to hear that it's had an impact on people. But I just want to say that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. The Green Pill book is a mile wide and an inch deep. There are a bunch of people who did the primary research on all the things, the block sciences of the world, the optimisms, the Vitalik Buterins, and I can only take a really surface amount of credit for bundling it up in a mimetic package. It's the work of a lot of great people and researchers. So I'll pass your compliments on to them.
Awesome. Yeah, I had this with me. I actually interviewed Griff Green at ETHDenver and talked about his passage. It's all coordination in one of the forward sections. And yeah, guys, anyone listening to this, there's just so many gems in this book. I'll actually try and locate the link and share with you all to order this. Green Pilled, How Crypto Can Regenerate the World. Amazing book. So the next question I have, and I'll just leave this open-ended for all of you. Let's talk about what the future for each of your projects looks like. So what's on the roadmap post ETHDenver? I guess we can open this up for Gitcoin, Super Modular. We've already touched on Shelling Point. So for Gitcoin and Super Modular, what does the future look like?
So for Gitcoin, the big campaign that we're running is a campaign to awaken people to fund what matters. And part of that is, part of how that manifests for Gitcoin is we're going to run another grants round. So we did an alpha round about a month and a half ago, and we had a lot that we learned from that. Lots of bugs, quite frankly, that we're trying to iron out for the next iteration. And the sort of thinking is that we need to dog food our own products if we want other people to use it. So we're going to make sure that this coming round is much smoother than the first round, so that we have in a year from now dozens of really big ecosystems using our Gitcoin grant stack to run their own rounds. And then part of how that runs smoothly is Gitcoin Passport, which keeps the round Sybil defended, Sybil resistant, is also a smooth experience. And it wasn't in the alpha round. And I'm happy to kind of admit that on behalf of Gitcoin. And then just like on my own personal notes, like a few things that I'm exploring is like, what does the future of living look like? Like I have friends that have like property in different parts of Latin America that want to understand like how can a village co-govern how can a village peer-to-peer govern itself? Um, and what else? Like I'm thinking a lot about how do we use Web3 to turn Gen Z impact, like people that don't even want to be influencers, into people that are extremely well funded to do their local hyper local work. So I was talking to an affiliate of PBS with Johnny in the audience yesterday, who is very interested in exploring how we create like almost like a meta label for for basically putting a spotlight on and media training Gen Zers that are doing local community organizing. So, and not just like scratching the surface of different projects that I'm really excited about diving deeper into this year.
Yeah, and Gary, I just want to commend you on your journey in Web3. Like you're one of the first people I really connected with, and I just admire the work that you were doing at DreamDAO and really putting an emphasis on bringing in the next generation of builders and making sure that they're well versed and educated. So I've always admired the work you've done. You know, being in the Alchemist group together, you have just grown exponentially and you put out really good quality stuff. So thank you for continuing to build and to educate, the next generation of builders.
Yep, yeah. Thanks so much. And just on the brief note about DreamDAO, happy to say in kind of similar vein to Owaki, disaffiliated from DreamDAO, but like some of my mentees who I've spent the most time with are leading it now, and they ask me for advice whenever they need it. But they're good. They're innovating beyond what I was able to do. So I feel like kind of a proud parent.
That's amazing. So Gloria and Kevin, for anyone that wants to take this, what does the future look like for Super Modular?
So we are building a regen Web3 venture studio, which just basically means that we are building narratives and experiences that are involved with the regen Web3 crypto movement. So a couple of examples are we just published two self-published two books at ETHDenver. One called Infinite Garden, which was all about Web3 in an evolutionary lens, as like a bunch of fauna and flora that are building on top of each other and interoperating and cooperating and competing in this like really beautiful infinite garden meme. And then we released a book called Stuff Crypto OGs Know, which was all about things that people wish they knew in their first cycle of onboarding into crypto. What if we could onboard people into regen crypto instead of letting them fall into the traps that we all fell in when we first got into crypto? So education is one part of that. And then the other part of that is building software products that actually allow us to embed public goods funding into our town squares, do quadratic funding in new and interesting form factors, and also building hypercerts, a new protocol for on top of a new protocol for creating impact. So one half software, one half narratives, and 100% fun is what we're going after. Gloria, you want to extend that?
Yeah, no, I think that is just spot on. For me, I'm always trying to get more builders in the spaces from all different types of backgrounds. So with BuildAbox, I'm always trying to encourage people to use that as their hackathon platform and trying to get involved in as many different types of ways to run successful events for hackathons on grounds and for virtually. And then, of course, I'm helping lead with Zuzalu that's happening in Montenegro. So we'll be there for the Public Goods Week. If you're there in Montenegro, please feel free to hit us up. It should be a lot of fun with lots of good talks and workshops and, of course, hanging out and networking. So that's my next couple of months looking right now.
Awesome. And I really love just the literature and the style of things that Super Modular, Gitcoin, Shelling Point, that this, Griff is actually calling me now. I think Griff is going to join us. Awesome. So yeah, the Infinite Garden. I also have another book. I think it's really obscure, but I got it at MCon too. It's the future history of the open internet. I really was inspired by this book because, I'm just like an art nerd at heart. So I love the design. I love the implementation of like sacred geometry. And I feel like there's really an understanding of how to get ideas out there through art, right? And ever since listening to more of Kevin's content, I've really been influenced by the solar punk movement and how we can put art and design out there that can help plant seeds for a better, more regenerative future. So I really love. I just think Gitcoin, Shelling Point, this whole green pilled movement has really nailed the imagery.
Can I jump in on that,
Sure.
Rachel? So I completely agree. I've been super inspired by Kevin and Octavian and Colton and a bunch of other people that are actively putting out new art in the space. There's not nearly enough. And it was cool catching up with, or just meeting. If y'all don't know what Big Think is and Free Think, they're sister publications related to the future of like a more optimistic path for a future for humanity. Um, had a call with like one of their creative masterminds, and I'm like planting a seed to like do like a solar punk art meta label. So to be continued in terms of sharing information about that. But like, yeah, we need to build on what Kevin and others have been doing already.
Awesome. Please keep me updated on that. Any way I can support future iterations of the Green Pill book, Infinite Garden, anything you're working on, Gary, please let me know. I'm here to support it. Um, so my next question, I want to tie all of this back into self-sovereignty and empowering individuals to have ownership of their own employment. After all, this is Freelancer Friday. So the focus on these spaces typically is to talk about how to empower individuals to become self-sovereign. So I'm curious how you all see self-sovereignty and ownership of employment playing into the future of work. And also, just to second on that, how can we use DAOs and collaboration to create a more regenerative culture of employment?
Okay, so this is like a topic that I love to discuss because for those who don't know, like I fell into Web3 while I was on maternity leave. I had a lot of time just hanging out with my son, and when I was nursing, I would just watch the core developers call to try to understand more of what was happening in Web3, and that's how I got to know people in this space, was just by taking notes. And I think that there is there's a subset of people that aren't able to work in traditional models that could work really well in Web3. And one of those subsets of groups happens to be mothers who feel like they have to leave the workforce in order to take care of their kids. I am a single mom and I have two kids, and I found that Web3 worked amazingly well for me to work there. And so I really think that, like, since talent is like distributed equally across all different types of people. Like if you could find the people that are most marginalized and bring them into the space, it would be one of the greatest assets for Web3, because there's people who, can't work more than 40 hours, or only need a couple hours, or need more flexibility, and bringing them into the space would be great. And so if I like had a dream job or dream like possibility, it would probably be like teaching more moms or women or people who are need to learn the space a little bit more, like how to be like protocol developers, or people where there's a great demand for them in the space, and taking the time and bringing them in that way, because just letting people have some more autonomy that way is huge. And then letting people, like, I always had to work in San Francisco, working in tech, or like near San Francisco, and that was not very conducive to my life as a mom. But Web3 allows you to work like anywhere. And so I'm always excited to see people working all over the world. One of the great things for me being a builder is I get to see builders from all over the world. I get to know people from Latin America and people from Africa who are building, and get to actually see them um, like build things, create things, and like have the impact in their community. And I think that the more people join Web3 and the more that they can kind of have autonomy where they want to live, the more that they are connected to Earth as a public good for everybody, and wanting to actually like make sure that it's good no matter where they are.
Girl, just everything you said. Yes, yes, yes. I affirm all of it. Something you were saying when you were speaking, I just want to quickly just mention is the empowerment of marginalized groups. I think what you were saying about being a single mother in the space, being a woman in the space, I just want to commend anyone here. I see my friend Layla in the audience. Anyone who has children and works in Web3, I just commend you. Having that responsibility of parenthood, being a mother, being a woman, all of it together, I just commend you all for doing the work you do. And I want to just draw attention really quick to one of the pinned tweets I've shared. Next week, I'm actually hosting the first women-focused Freelancer Friday. So I'm having some speakers like Dr. Kelly Page join, if any of you are familiar, and Evan from Disco and Boys Club. And Layla may also be joining as a guest speaker as well. So please join next week. I'm open to adding more speakers too. So if you're a woman working in the space, please set a reminder and join that one. And I'll just go back into the question. So for Kevin, talking about self-sovereignty, how do you see self-sovereignty playing into the future of work and ownership of employment?
Well, I think that one of the most exciting things that Opolis is doing is allowing people to take their employment from one DAO to another, or one DAO to a company to a gig project to earning on Gitcoin grants, and to still keep consistent health coverage and compliance with their local authorities. So the fact that Web3 offers sovereignty of employment, and Opolis is a bridge to that, I think is pretty powerful. So we want to enable people to do all the boring but important stuff like getting mortgages and getting health insurance and car insurance and all that kind of stuff, even though those things have traditionally been tied to employment, and Web3 employment doesn't offer those things. So I think that the Web3 is going to be the internet of money. We're potentially reinventing anything that is associated with value transfer in society. And right now, people are really focused on DeFi and NFTs for good reason. But don't sleep on the internet of jobs. Don't sleep on the future of employment being tokenized and earning via Web3. And I think that building a bridge for that is an important step. I don't know what the whole elephant looks like, but I think that that's an important start. So keep up the great work.
Awesome. Thank you. And a lot of us here in this space know about Opolis, but just to give the brief TLDR, Opolis is a member-owned digital employment cooperative. And what we're doing is aiming to give individuals all the tools that they need to thrive, to be their own boss, to do work they love, and to get all of the benefits they'd get at a corporate position. So this includes things like getting a W-2, getting pay stubs, access to medical, dental, and vision, and just basically having all of those things that you need, all of your boxes of self-care checked, and all of your human needs in the modern world. Having a W-2, having pay stubs, it helps so much to just live an abundant life. I know for me, it's helped me tremendously when it comes to finding a place to live. Try finding an apartment. I know Gloria has lived in San Francisco. Try finding an apartment in the Bay Area with your MetaMask and see how it goes. I think having a W-2, having pay stubs, it really helps you to just do all these human necessities of the modern world. So if anyone's looking to learn more about joining Opolis, my account is joined here, Rachel Rose B. You can DM me. You can DM the Opolis account. I'm happy to spend time and schedule calls with anyone that wants to learn more about it. I also lead our Web3 partnership. So if anyone is looking to partner with Opolis and do some engagements like this and, do Twitter spaces or content together, reach out to me. I'm pretty open to working with new projects. I'm all about inclusive vibes. If you're a team that wants to help your individual's earning be compliant, get benefits, reach out to me and we'll make it happen. So next, my next question for everyone is, in what ways can we collectively build a future that progresses away from hierarchically structured organizations that extract value and into a culture of work that celebrates independent work?
I think one of the things that is done right now is like the mental shift. Like both Gary and Iwaki both kind of showed how they're disaffiliated from their previous work and like have handed it over to the DAO. And so just understanding like that DAOs now are running things and are the decision makers and are the point people, like that is a narrative that we have to kind of embrace again, and not thinking that like Gitcoin is all Kevin's project or DreamDAO is all Gary's project anymore. Just realizing like that the drivers are now different to it and like the benefits that that has, but the whole landscape is like very different, you know, to go from that structure. So it might take a little bit of a learning curve on that. And for me personally, I think that when I have people who are struggling to go back to work or like trying to find roles, I'm usually really quick to say like, hey, let's join a DAO or let me show you what DAOs are and like how to get involved and just the benefits of it. So I think sometimes highlighting the joys and the pains of what it is to work independently, and just having like resources for people to go to explore it. Because I think most people just don't even know it's an option.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gloria. And yeah, Kevin, if you want to take it next.
Yeah, Gloria was just talking about my disaffiliation from Gitcoin and passing the torch, and Gary's disaffiliation from DreamDAO. And I just wanted to say to any leaders out there that are thinking about decentralizing your organization, decentralization of power comes along with decentralization of stress. So there's high upside to passing the torch and moving on. So maybe people always talk about why would you decentralize power? Why would you give up power? And I just think like, you know, there's an upside to it also. So keep that in mind as you empower a bench of leaders in your organization and decentralize not only the power, but the responsibility to them.
With great power comes great responsibility. And in the
Yep.
world of Web3 and decentralizing, it makes sense to eventually pass the torch. So it's not all coming to you as a central focal point. And man, we have Griff Green, who's been trying to join as a speaker, but we're dealing with some Twitter technical difficulties. So hopefully we can get him up here.
It's I wouldn't be too stressed, Rachel. I think, by the way, I think I can't see a reason why Gitcoin wouldn't be down to like help co-host this. If you were down to take lead on it, like anytime, really. Like I just feel like this is very important for anyone trying like to get their like tax situation and everything under control. I feel, speaking of stress, I feel much better now that I'm part of Opolis than I used to.
That's amazing to hear. Whoops, sorry, I was muted. I do feel like that's the case for so many people, Gary. I hear this time and time again. I've even heard people say, if any of you are familiar with our ambassador, Jairus from Bankless DAO, he's one of the folks that say, I joined Web3 full time because of Opolis, because I knew this existed, right? And this is especially imperative for people who have a spouse or have children or a family. Like having that security of having benefits, making sure you're compliant with your taxes. We're in such a new and emerging space. It's really important to ensure you're checking all of your compliance boxes and just having your own back when it comes to that, you know? It makes tax season so much easier to have a W-2. And we are partnered with an amazing organization of CPAs. If any of you are familiar with Darien Advisors, one of our coalition success stewards hosts a weekly Twitter space with them and answers all of your tax questions. So definitely check those out. And just to dive into the next question, I wanted to ask you all today, and Griff is still connecting. In what ways, oh, I already asked this. So in what ways can we collectively build a future that progresses away from hierarchically structured organizations that extract value into a culture of work that celebrates independent work? And I think my answer, I'm just going to say, I feel like Opolis is a huge part of that. I feel like it gives people the tools to thrive and do the work that they love without having a boss. Like we help you incorporate your own LLC and become your own boss. And I think the way that it's structured is really rooted in the democratization of employment and empowering individuals. So for me, that's my answer. I think that we are really helping to build the future of work. And I'm really open to continuing like doing the community building side of this with other projects that are doing like open source software things like Gitcoin, and projects that are doing good things. I want to continue showing up and supporting you all on an individual level and on a collective level. Now, my next question that I have, I was going to ask Kevin if you wanted to talk a little bit more about Green Pilled. I know we've discussed this to some extent, but what was the inspiration for this book? And can we talk a little bit about regenerative crypto economics for those just learning today?
Kevin, you're cutting out real quick, but I will have to say on regenerative crypto economics, like that was a topic that was said in a meeting once. You know, like, if you don't know what it is, don't feel bad, because I heard it in a meeting once and then I went down this rabbit hole to try to figure out what it was. And the only reference I could find was like last week's meeting. So it's just a concept that's kind of not really new, but I mean, it's just taking concepts from regenerative movement, crypto movement, and crypto economics movements too. I'm sure Kevin will be able to tell it a little bit better. But one of the things that I've experienced that was really interesting for me was I was in a meeting at the Capital Institute that was talking with the regenerative economics people, so not crypto people, and I just happened to be in it with some people from from the ReFi DAO, and they were just trying to show like what can crypto do from a regenerative standpoint. And it was like, you know, the retroactive funding, the quadratic funding that we do, things of that nature. And it was like kind of mind blowing. So these concepts are brand new to even the people that talk about regenerative economics in general. But I'll let Kevin explain what regenerative crypto economics is, because he's much better
Sure.
at it than I am.
Happy to. Is my audio better now?
Oh, yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay, so Green Pilled is a book that I wrote in Christmas 2021 and released for ETHDenver in February of 2022. It looks like there's a pinned tweet right here where you can download a free copy. Was selling it for $13, but happy to give it away for free if you showed up to the Twitter Spaces. Basically, I'm involved in the founding of Gitcoin, which is a crowdfunding application that has delivered about $50 million worth of funding for public goods. We started in 2017 and grew it all through that market cycle. As 2019 and 2020 rolled around, I realized that there were a lot of other people doing really great work in the impact Web3 space. And I wanted to sort of create a piece of content that talked about the regen crypto movement. So basically, I define regen crypto as a system that has resource capacity growing over time, as opposed to a degenerative system that is losing capacity over time. And especially regen systems, I think, should be resistant to shock events. So things like these most recent bank runs or 3AC and FTX, those are all shock events to the system. I think that if we design systems that are regenerative, and increase not only our financial capital over time, but our social capital and intellectual capital and spiritual capital and material capital. I think that that's the most interesting subset of the Web3 ecosystem for me. And so Green Pilled was just meant to be an opening foray in assembling some ideas about that movement. I have since met hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are working on regen crypto applications, and it just feels way less lonely. Like starting Gitcoin, no one really got it, and it felt ahead of its time, but now it feels like it's of its time, and that we're a part of this groundswell of people who want to use crypto, not only to support their families, but also to make their communities and the world around them better. And so that was the genesis of the Green Pill book. And I also run a podcast called the Green Pill Podcast on the Bankless Network. You can go to greenpill.party and subscribe to that. On that, we're just twice a week interviewing the people who are making it happen. So if you're interested in collective intelligence or regenerative crypto economics or how the impact DAO space is actually having an impact on the world, then check out the podcast at greenpill.party. Thank you. Hopefully my audio helps out.
That's amazing, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And everybody, to what Kevin said, there is a free copy of the Green Pill book that you can download at the top of this Twitter space. Please check it out. It's taught me so much. And I really think what Kevin was saying, just about having spiritual capital and creating projects that build a more regenerative world over time, like chasing a bag is such like a instantaneous form of gains, right? It's more on an individual level than a collective level. And I think projects like this, like Super Modular, Gitcoin, Give It, I think these are thinking in a more progressive way about collective growth versus just individual bag chasing, you know? So I really love the cultural shift that we're trying to implement here. And for my next question for our speakers today, This is something at ETHDenver. I went around asking people. Shelling Point actually inspired me, and Green Pilled inspired me in multiple ways. One was creating a coordination game that I did at Shelling Point. So I brought out two objects during my talk. I brought out an object to help the attendees set an intention. I brought out a meditative sound healing bowl. And then the second object was a jumbo beach ball. And I threw it around to the attendees to have them write their why and really have people hone in on why they're here and set an intention. So I went around the event. People wrote that there on the ball, what their purpose of being there was and how they want to positively impact the world. And I'll be tweeting those out. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I will be tweeting those out on how people want to positively impact the world so we can collectively manifest positive change. So yeah, my question for you all here today is, what is your why? And we could start with Gary.
Okay. It's to help build and highlight tools and systems and movements that accelerate human and planetary flourishing.
Awesome. So next, Gloria, what is your why?
Yeah, my why is, I guess, pretty simple. Right now my immediate why is, of course, working at Supermodular, but also I've been part of this whole Redemption DAO where we're trying to buy some land in the Congo and buy it for regenerative purposes. And so, being that my whole family is Congolese, and I understand not only the Congolese people but also this technology, that's one of my immediate whys currently, is to see that get off the ground. But end all, my why is I have two children, and I would really like to leave the world better for them than I had it for it. So I think it's just really trying to understand the impact that you make and the choices that you make, and trying to leave the world a better place for those who are coming after you.
Awesome. That's really admirable, Gloria. I think it's so important, especially for mothers, for parents out there, that we leave the world in a better state for them, and they're inheriting a world that has more regenerative systems in place. So it looks like Kevin has also dropped off. So what I'll end with here before we open this up to any questions or thoughts from the attendees is, how can one get involved and get connected with you and support your project?
You can just shoot me a DM, and I'm usually happy to respond.
I will go ahead and say there's a couple ways to get involved, or I would love to see people get involved. Of course, watching Green Pill, if you are reading Green Pill or listening to Green Pill, is a good way to get involved, or joining the refi movement in general, it would be great. Um, I always say, encouraging people to set up a grant on Gitcoin grants, just so that they're no longer reaching in their own pockets to do the good work, but that you can start to fund what you believe and put your money where your mouth is. So funding public goods. And then, of course, I'm going to say BIDL, build. Whatever you don't see in the world that you want to see, build it. Connect with people who are doing the good work. And get those who might not be in the space, or that are marginalized in the space, connect with them and bring them to the table as well, so that they can build the tools that are needed for their own communities and then amplify their projects as well. So I know Griff couldn't say much because he wasn't up to speak, but really check out Giveth. Giveth is also a great platform to do funding worth, and their rounds are great as well. I see Manu's on the call too. So there's a lot of people in this call that are doing great work. I would recommend, following them on Twitter, seeing what they're doing, and really start supporting their projects too, because it's going to take a whole lot of us to make the world a little bit better.
Absolutely. And with that, I'd like to welcome anyone here that has any thoughts, any questions, or wants to contribute to the space. There's some really amazing people here. I see EXO, I see Wiggleworks. We got our social media manager, one of our membership success stewards. We have a lot of amazing people on this call. Lakoto from Cult DAO, what's up? Let's see. I got a request from EXO. Or no, Alan. What's up, Alan?
Hey, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Alan.
So I've actually been having a lot of conversations with Gary on this exact topic, and sort of an ancillary way. We have a project that's a real estate based project, and one of the questions has been, I think, how do you get sort of old, you know, old bulls at the top, essentially that have been holding a lot of wealth for a long time to sort of explore doing things in a new way, right? So like, how do you get, everybody to be stakeholders and, get, sort of a select few to relinquish that control, right? And so the answer I actually think is kind of beneficial is that I don't think that ever happens. And by the way, this is a good thing, right? I don't think that ever happens until the technology is able to provide like essentially a similar, um, or even in this case potentially more beneficial like liquidity event, for them. And this is the best thing. So we were actually talking in Denver about, just as an example of this is like Section 8 housing, right? So let's say everybody wants to do a social impact project where, um, members of, a particular housing project have the opportunity to ultimately buy out their unit as a condo, right? The capability for a community of, let's say, 200 to 300 people plus to do that versus one owner is actually pretty high, right? So the technology's just never existed before. So I actually think that this can happen through traditional vehicles, just through careful organization, meaning, you know, at the point when an owner normally has some sort of liquidity event, um, or a business typically has some sort of liquidity event, if the DAOs go into these situations, with the mindset of doing good, I actually think that they can structure, sort of acquisition, to be beneficial to those owners, and then ultimately that all happens much more quickly, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And Alan, that sound you heard was me scheduling some time with you for next week. I'd love to just continue the
Oh,
conversation
great.
and see how we can work together to support each other's projects and build more value creation in the space versus value extraction. That's really something that I've
Oh,
been fixated on.
Yeah, I love that.
oh yeah, definitely. Opolis. So like basically one way to look at what Alan's trying to do is like a uh, regenerative community first Soho house. And we need regenerative employment partners if we want that to happen, I think.
That,
So
that's right.
Hello, we're here.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, Alan. And
Yeah.
like I said, everybody, the floor is open. There's so many brilliant minds here. It's hard to really wrap my head around like how many brilliant people there are in the Web3 space. Like I feel like we're so blessed every day. Like my calendar is booked with all of these amazing people that I learn from every day. I met with Ron, who authored this really amazing book. All of Ron Rivers' tweets are just really amazing. Give Ron a follow. Will T hosts educational Twitter spaces every week. He's another really amazing person on the call. Aaron at the Decentralized Diary. I'm just shouting out everyone I love on this call right now. Wiggleworks. Yeah, Mr. Cultmander we have so many awesome people from Cult DAO too. Love to see all of these amazing projects here. And the mic is open if anyone wants to come up. Yeah, so we have about another minute here. Yeah, floor is open if anyone wants to request the mic. But just to bring attention back to the pinned tweet so we can all get connected, stay connected, and continue building a more regenerative future together. Definitely download the free copy of the Green Pill book, which is, for anyone that joined our space today, that's for you guys. And then next week, please set a reminder to join our first Women's Freelancer Friday. We'll be talking about projects like Disco XYZ and talking about decentralized identity backpacks and also Boys Club. And then the other tweet I have is just to get connected with all of these projects. I shared a link for Biddlebox from Gloria. link for Giveth. If I actually shared a link to support the disaster relief in Turkey and Syria. So please check that out and support if you can. And also just get connected. Follow all these speakers here today. If you want to learn and connect with some amazing regen minds, these are the people to connect with. So with that, I'll pass the mic over. Let's see, Will is requesting the mic. So
I gotta run, but thank you so much, Rachel, for organizing. Let's do it again. I'll talk to you soon. And see you,
Thanks
Gloria.
so
See you,
much,
everyone.
Gary.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, and Will, we're wrapping up the space in about a minute, but feel free to share any thoughts you have.
Well, you gave me a call to action, so I took action. Hey, how's it going, friend?
What's going on, Will? Good to see you again.
Yeah, no worries. Just coming in here, showing some love, supporting friends, and always willing to learn and listen and see how I can participate. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time today. Thank you all so much for joining. Again, please follow all of our speakers from today and each other. And let's continue building a more regenerative world. Reach out to me if you're interested in joining Opolis, Rachel Rose B, or DM the Opolis account if you want to learn more about joining. Thank you all for joining today.